recording.
Okay.
Sick.
All right, are we going? This is not a podcast.
Is that your clap for the sync?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay. We're new to this. There you go. Okay. What's up, guys? I'm Kelley. I'm here with Allie Smith, 2023 and 2021 amateur champion. There we go. Yes. 2023 breakout DJPT season, of course.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, so we're not calling this a podcast, are we? It's not a podcast, but it's a video, podcast style. Yeah.
Call it a vlog, if you will.
Oh, yeah, I like that terminology. We're just going to basically recap Waco. We'll talk a little bit about Austin, what we're looking forward to. Right now, we're kind of outside one of the Austin courses that we're going to be playing. But yeah, we'll just do a Waco recap. That is where you started the season, right?
Yes. Well, the Disc Golf Pro Tour season. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you led up to coming to Waco. You stopped in Terrell?
Yeah, Terrell, Texas for the first Go Throw event with Luke Humphreys' holding. It was a great time. It was a free to stay on site for us competitors. Was able to really feel a part of the community there. Mm-hmm. Nice course. The weather was terrible, but that just made it easy to kind of get started and
sure, no pressure if everyone's struggling and stuff like that.
And we all did, and we all smiled through it. So we started there. Then the next week we got moved down to Waco.
So when did you get into Waco? The following Monday, or did you come Sunday after the event?
That Monday morning. It rained so much Saturday, Sunday that we had to kind of wait so we didn't get stuck. That's always a threat.
Yeah. All right, so you got into town on Monday. I got into town on Wednesday, but I've been living in Austin, so I'm able to go up and practice Waco quite a bit, so I didn't really need to go any earlier. Yeah, speaking of Luke Humphreys, all right, I'm getting used to, getting around everyone, being a rookie on the tour, and just, casually running into people, right? So a couple times I was at Waco practicing, and Luke Humphreys, rides by on his little board, and, dude has some swagger to it.
Right.
Okay, so that was new for me. I've never really been around him. I don't know him, but he's got a little something to him.
Yeah, and he you can see it, the aura about him.
Yeah. Aura, that's good. Yeah.
He's the man, the disc golf man. Like I said, he's setting up a whole separate tour for the players. He is the players' player. He really is looking out for us.
Yeah, agreed.
Along with swagger of players.
Yeah.
Silva.
Oh my gosh. Silva Sarnan. All right, so if I could have a stylist, it would be her. She may not say much.
No.
She's quieter, but her style is bar none. I played with her for the first time ever, I believe first round.
Okay.
And she had on this I'll try to find a picture maybe, but she had on this just really nice jacket, these shorts, and I'm like, wow, I love the outfit. Takes off the jacket. The shirt is even cuter than the jacket.
It's how can she do it?
Yeah.
But she does.
And then the next day, another cute outfit. Round 3, another cute outfit.
Did she do the thing where she wears a long sleeve and then pulls the collar outside?
I haven't seen that one yet.
That is the cutest. A lot of the Europeans do that, and I'm ready to add that to my wardrobe.
We have a lot to learn from them. Courses,
we do.
Style. Okay, yeah, I'm learning. True. Yeah, so Silva, if you're out there, vote for best dressed.
Easily.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a tour card now, so I can vote. We need to advocate for that to be an award.
A superlative.
Yeah, she will get it for sure. All right, let's mention the men briefly on their performance. It was, I gotta say, it was exciting, right? Coming down the stretch, you don't know what's gonna happen.
It's 12 people within a stroke.
Right.
2 strokes.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about the course is 15, 17, 18 at Waco, all 3 rounds for both divisions, top 3 for OB strokes. So, it makes for some exciting golf coming down the stretch, which is funny because you would think that, go OB, you're out of it. Well, Adam Hammis went OB on 15.
Yes.
And then he still won it. So.
Right.
But, I don't know. I think Waco makes for some exciting golf. What are your thoughts on the course in general? I'm curious.
I like the separation, right? You kind of have 9 holes that are in the woods, 9 that are out in the open. And it's not 9 and 9, so that's a good way to you get a few open ones to kind of get your feel for it. There's always wind right there
Make
on the
you think you can
brazos.
score well.
Yeah. And then it's some pretty straightforward gaps to hit in the woods.
Sure, yeah.
Not a lot. It's really asking, not too demanding. Some mids, even some putters off the tee for people.
Sure, yeah.
So it's all reachable, pretty birdieable for both fields.
Yeah, I think it scores well for both fields. Yeah, I think it's fair for the FPO for sure.
But like what you said, like the open holes, 15, 17, and 18.
Yep.
With this win that we had and always will have, is like,
yeah,
you can't count all those birdies you had. You could be 5 down coming out of the woods, and then you're 3 up.
Well, I thought it was interesting. Greg Barsby actually said he did like an interview with Nate Perkins when they were coming off hole 1, and he was kind of talking about 15, 17, 18 and how he felt like he needed a buffer coming out of the woods for those open holes.
Yeah.
Mainly because some of the top guys can eagle them, right?
Right.
But
kind of back-to-back, 15 and 16.
I think it's a dangerous mindset to get in, though, and I fell victim to this a little bit. It's like you cannot push in the woods too hard because they're easy and, like, in terms of, like, yes, there's a fairway to hit. Yes, the par, I think, is reasonable. But, boy, if you get off the fairway. And then if you're off the fairway and you're at Waco and you're thinking, I still got a birdie because I need some buffer going into the open, you're done for. Toast.
Yeah. There's no hope there. And I think, I mean, I could see that in the scores for FPO for round 3. The wind was down, really calm coming out of the woods.
Yeah.
And I expected, scores to be pretty low, but there was a large percentage of the field that they took strokes in the woods, and then, you're trying to get the strokes back out of the woods when the wind was down, and maybe just didn't trust the new game plan you had to go by, and it's just like, didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, I think people have this perception sometimes of Waco of that, like, the wind makes you question your shots, and then when there's no wind, you can just go with your game plan. For me, personally, I find the opposite. Like, I'm almost never played Waco with little to no wind.
Right.
Like, almost every time I go, I'm like, what are these 30-mile-per-hour winds?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, my game plan is requiring on either a strong tailwind or a strong headwind. And when there's no wind, it's like, I find myself questioning, like, okay, now, am I sure there's no wind down there? Like, are the trees really moving? Like, it's kind of like the opposite of Waco. You almost always expect wind. There's very few practice days with no wind.
No, right.
Yeah.
I think we maybe had one, and everyone was like, well, I don't even want to practice because it's not going to be like this.
Yeah,
it's like, well, it's not, maybe not always, but, I mean, honestly, even in the woods, those first 2 days, I didn't find the wind to affected me really that much. It's just like, you're so protected.
Yeah.
Without those open ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in general, Waco is a good course.
Yes.
I think there was a lot of talk this past week in the media, whatever that means, people that I heard talking, right, about it being short and easy. And I don't disagree with the, like, sentiment, right? But, like, it's almost said with this, like, negative connotation that isn't good for the tour.
Right.
But I don't know, you have a lot more experience on tour. Do you like short and easy, short and technical? Do you like the longer ones? Like, where do you place Waco in the lineup of, I guess, bad to good on the courses?
I think, like you said, like, the connotation of short and easy, everyone's like, oh, that's bad. And it's like, well, we can use the word short because of distance. Distance, just looking at numbers, it is the shortest course on tour. Right. But easy, what are we talking about easy? Like, the shots are easy. It's easy to birdie. Like, there's a lot of ways to describe easy. Just because easy to birdie doesn't mean that there isn't danger. There is, off those fairways.
Clearly. I found a lot of it. Yeah.
The wind, the water, like, there is so much more. I think a good comparison would be like, we're not playing this year, but in Houston we play, what's that course called? Brock Park.
Yeah.
And that is a very, I don't know if it's short, but it is a very easy track.
Very
a lot of birdies out there. Yes,
yeah,
park style golf. And that, I mean, Brazos at Waco is a park. So it is, for me, it adds so much more pressure and stress to birdie.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, I got a birdie. Oh, but I'm out of position.
Yeah.
And it brings bogey into play, and now I've lost 2 strokes, and then my mental side is kind of slipping.
Yeah. I think the easy part, too, like, you really put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like, you almost create, whether true or not, this, like, birdie or die dynamic in your head, which maybe doesn't exist on other courses on the tour. So it's interesting. I think, in general, we need to put a little bit more respect on Waco as a course.
Fair.
It is a good course, okay?
There's a lot to offer.
Yes, I think a couple things, right? The aesthetics of it maybe aren't great. There's some erosion and dead trees and stuff like the time of year that we play it doesn't aid in that, right? Yeah, exactly. Hasn't
filled out.
Yeah. Bloomed.
Spring.
But Do you think we come back to Waco?
In the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious.
I would hope. I think we will, just based on, like, track record. It's been on tour for as long as I think the Pro Tour's been around.
Yeah, many years.
I think it offers a lot. I think we forget about courses need more than just, like, 18 holes and 18 baskets and tees.
Fair.
You need to be able to bring volunteers in. You need a group of, like, a community to do that. You need a space to park the players and the spectators. That's number one, right? Spectators is so many people bringing them in. Well, at Waco, we've got that. We've got all that space. Yep. There's enough openness to get your connection so we can film, and have broadcasts. So, like, there's other aspects that I think Waco has that is important and can kind of eclipse perhaps the easy birdieable nature of the course. Yeah,
absolutely. I personally love Waco. I hope we keep coming back.
Same. Agree.
All right, earlier I talked about the stats, the OB stats. I feel confident that those are accurate. The rest of the stats we have,
yeah,
I don't feel confident in them whatsoever. Because me personally, like, again, shout out to all the volunteers. To your point, these events are not possible without the volunteers. Like, you can't hold a Pro Tour event without volunteers. But maybe giving some more guidelines or training on how to do the stats could be useful.
Yes.
I know for me personally, all 3 rounds, my stats were incorrect. My C1 attempts, C2 attempts, fairway hits. Really, the putting is the easiest one to remember and, like, look at your stats versus, like, what you remember on the course.
Right.
But my stats were wrong the entire tournament. And I think the volunteers just don't understand how to do it, and which is totally fine. But if these are the stats that we're using to fuel conversations about best putters,
awards, there are sponsors that will pay you for being the number 1 putter in the world, or the number 1, the distance, whatever. So it's like, those that can be money. Yeah, they do matter for some people, not for everyone. Like, I used to teach high school math, so statistics for me, I'm like, you can skew them anyway. Like, you can look at things from one perspective.
Right.
But the basis of, like, taking the information down for what happened should be pretty straightforward. And I think what I definitely have noticed from the volunteers, like, they got to follow 4 people throwing.
Yeah.
And we aren't looking at the scorekeeper to be like, hey, did you see me throw that one? Like, to make sure that they're checking. Like, we're just, like, throwing. And so for us, we can count each other's, like, quickly. But for them, they also maybe be like, oh my gosh, I love Kelley and Allie. I love watching them play disc golf. And they get enthralled in us playing. And then they're like, oh shoot, but did you pitch up? Did you putt? I kind of missed that, you know? So I think there is a lot of, like, they are fans as well as a volunteer in that moment. So it's, like, definitely grace with that. But I think, like, you can't skew OB. Like, that's the stat. It's like, right, like, did you go out of bounds? Yes. Mark it. That's pretty easy. I think that the statistics, the way of gathering and taking them is growing and getting better. I think that's also helpful.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think as the sport evolves, maybe we'll find better ways to provide some training to the volunteers, right? I think the incentive is there for the volunteers. They get to attend the event and stuff like that. So there's definitely benefits there. But, hopefully we can provide some more training for them in the future on maybe better ways that we've learned that all volunteers can learn from.
But, like,
how
maybe,
to keep them.
Maybe like a before email. Like, if you know they're going to volunteer, shoot them an email and, like, a little description or a 10-second video of here's how I take stats.
Yeah, so they're not seeing the stat screen for the very first time. They're like, okay, what am I doing?
What does this mean? It's crazy looking in that moment, and then you have 4 people that are throwing, and we're on to hole 2.
Yeah, and, like, the announcer, especially hole 1, it can be definitely overwhelming. There was a particular stat scorekeeper, whatever you want to call them, that I got to play with. Her name was Kathy.
Yes.
I think you got to play with her as well.
Twice.
So tell us a little bit about Kathy, and then we'll talk about her unfortunate experience on 17.
Yes. I got to play. Well, Kathy was my scorekeeper for rounds 1 and 3. So round 1, I always like to go and introduce myself. Just, somebody else follow me. Like, they want to be here and they want to be a part of the group because they are. They're pretty important there. And she was just such a sweetheart. She stayed out of the way. If she ever had a conflict or had an issue, she would ask, like, a caddy or somebody else on the card, not the player. That's always kind of important. Don't really bring up the score. It could be bad, could be good. Can let us be. And I think I really also noticed that she was, like, looking out for us. She was, if, oh, did you get a 4? Did you get a 5? She was kind of quick to be like, this is what, just kind of show you, here's what I got, She was just nice and, like, loved disc golf and wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So I had her for round 1, and then after, it was like round 2, Mary and I were just sitting 17 and 18 just on that tee pad watching MPO play for like 3 hours. So we get to see what happens with Kathy. So let's hear your experience.
Yeah, so Kathy was with me as well, I believe, the last day, and Raven Klein was on the card with us, and I guess Raven knew that Kathy was spotting on hole 17 the day prior.
Right.
But we didn't know, there's obviously a story here, right? But we didn't know any of the backstory, and so Raven, me, and Kathy were walking off 17, and Raven jokingly said, do you miss it? Like, joking with Kathy, like, do you miss spotting on 17?
Right.
Not knowing what had happened. And Kathy immediately was like, no, not really. and we were like, oh, okay, like, what happened? And then she began to tell us that it sounded like, and I'd seen the video later, but at the time of her explaining, I'd not really understood. So she was spotting on 17, I think, most of the day.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, and so card after card after card, right? And so if you know 17, it's basically a lot of times the shots will kind of come in over the water, and they'll hit the land, and they'll, depending on how they're coming in, either skip like kind of an anti-skip into the water, or they'll skip like kind of over into the land. They almost never hit and go straight, right? Correct. So all day she's learning like how the disc, where they're coming in, common landing spots, where they're going and stuff. And all day successfully spotting, calling stuff in and out, right? Yes. Watching it.
Doing a great job.
Yep. And then my understanding is last card comes through.
Yep, last card.
And I believe it was Ezra Robinson.
Yes.
Threw forehand over the water. And Kathy's watching it like she's been doing all day. And she said it was the first one all day that it came in and it kind of just skipped straight forward.
Right.
And she said, I mean, she kind of had nowhere to go other than the water.
Actually, yes.
And so, like, hundreds of discs all day, and then literally the last one, and on Jomez, and, unfortunate for her, because obviously, what the people are going to say. But, it just hit, it hit the ground, skipped right to her, landed right at her feet, safe. So as Robinson was called safe, and it's always unfortunate when a spotter gets hit, but I think it just got to clear Kathy's name because she was working hard, and not that anyone's blaming her for anything, but
she was out there in the wind. It was crazy wind in the sun, just getting cooked by that. She was basically standing like almost in the water, and I think. I haven't really looked online if the comments of her, but
sure.
I would say from my perspective, since the disc was safe, less people would be upset.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember like Anthony Barella throws one at like Las Vegas, and the spotter's kind of standing by the bunker, hits off of the spotter and into the bunker, and I remember just the internet going crazy because it had taken a stroke from
negative.
So because it was, it didn't, maybe it took away a stroke from the other players.
Sure. Yeah.
We see Ezra makes, I don't know if he lays up, he putts. It didn't look like a 100% committed, like I'm going for it putt. Right. It did look like maybe I deserve to take a stroke there. Who knows there?
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think that Kathy did her best. She tried.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because sometimes those forehands, I mean, you're throwing blind, you want someone down there to be able to see where it went out. Otherwise the card can't really tell.
No idea.
So you want someone down there. Wrong place, wrong time, unfortunately, and it did end up hitting her. But we'll see. Hopefully this week we don't have any issues with spotters. But
I'm glad she was okay. It didn't nail. It's kind of a gentle skip, really.
Yeah, and I'm glad she did not jump in the water.
That's sad.
But scorekeepers are great. We'll continue to improve stats over the time.
Yeah.
All right, you mentioned that you had sat and watched 17 and 18 for several hours.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what are your thoughts from a fan's perspective on Waco? Is Waco a good course for the fan?
Right. I loved it. We were there for round 2, and we went back a little bit for round 3. I think it's just a great. We talked about the OB on those holes. Those holes have the possibility to cause carnage, but also amazing birdie opportunities. To see somebody throw on 18 MPO going across the water, and that landing zone is so small and finicky. We were seeing people hit right by the basket and just rocket skip OB, or come kind of wide, and you'd think it would skip and it would just spike, and had a C2 bid, and it provided so much drama and You can watch what's happening and then like, pull up scores and see the other cards behind. I think there's the ability to spectate from a lot of places, especially on that outer part with the road and the sidewalk. You have a lot of access points, and they've actually done a good job because some trees have fallen in the woods. They've got some new avenues for spectating as well. So I think from that perspective alone, it's a great course, and it's got to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I normally don't stick around too long after rounds, but this was one that I do enjoy because you can just sit there and watch like 4 to 5 different holes easily.
Right.
And 17 and 18 are so exciting to watch, right? And so it's so fun. The fan can sit there, and even 15 behind, like 15, 17, 18, 3 of the harder OB holes that we talked about, you can sit in one spot and easily see the entire hole of all 3. Yeah, so I think from a spectator perspective, I agree. Like it's fun, especially if you're wanting to sit. If you're wanting to follow a card, I think it's harder, like through the woods.
Definitely.
Which may always be the case to some degree if you're following the card. Yeah. But I think it's a good spectator course. In general, again, from the player experience, not just the course, but all the other stuff you talked about earlier, I thought the facilities were adequate. One of the things that FPO fields struggle with, in my experience, is the earlier tee times. Not necessarily like getting up early or anything like that, but like sometimes, we have run across, me personally, like you get to the event, it's first round, tee times are random. Yep. You have the early tee time, and the course isn't set up. Yeah. Daylight has barely broken. Right. Everything's wet from the dew, and you tee off in 20 minutes. Yes. And that is the reality sometimes for the FPO field. Not the experience in Waco. So obviously daylight saving time helped us. Yeah. But the warm-up stuff and all that was ready to go.
It was all, they had that, I think, out on Wednesday or Tuesday, like nets up, like tables out, player hospitality kind of set up. Yeah. I think with the growth of disc golf in terms of the Pro Tour, like the amount of FPO and MPO, she's like, we have to kind of keep pushing the times back. We won't get everyone through. Yeah. And it's like, we're almost to the point where it's like, we kind of have to have 2 courses and a little bit of separation. I mean, that brings a whole lot of other headaches in. But
yeah, sure. So speaking of 2 courses, if we look forward to Open at Austin this week, right? We got 2 courses. Are you surprised that both fields are playing the same course on the same days? Or would you have preferred like one division on one course and then the other division, like you're kind of swapping back and forth?
I mean, I think it has potential for, like, we could do that where it's DGN. You can't have both fields playing at the same time. You only have one coverage, especially also in camera crews, right? The camera crew has to start in the morning and then get out for the afternoon. That's usually the answer why we don't do those things. And the field isn't, when we go to Worlds, sometimes we see the split pools. What did I answer the question you just asked?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, it's the resource limitation, but I think the thing now is it's not a necessity. Yes. If the course suits both divisions from the course perspective,
right,
the field size isn't dictating the need for a split. I mean, I think today, so we're filming this on Monday, and the qualifier was today.
It was.
No FPO competitors for the qualifier. So I think the field size just isn't dictating that we need separate courses right now for that alone.
Right. Now, what about spinning that? What about if this event has 2 courses and MPO only played Harvey Pennock, the golf course, and FPO only played Sprinkle Valley, the woods course? Yeah. So I think we can think of that. Sure. That's kind of splitting the tour a bit, and I think
they do that with one event with Sunset Hills, right?
Exactly, in Eureka.
And
so Ledgestone. Yep.
Yeah. What do you like that?
Interesting. I love Northwoods Black. Okay. So I like that course, and that's the one I want to play all 4 rounds of.
Sure.
That's interesting. I never thought that is the only course the only event that we split like that.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Do you like seeing FPO and MPO same course, different layouts?
Right.
Would you prefer that we had courses completely dedicated to that division? I'm kind of split. I could see both arguments. Right. I don't mind it on the same now, as long as the layout is thoughtful. But I could also see split. I could give opportunity. I guess last thing for Open at Austin to talk about for now, until we do another recap, is 2 courses, 3-day turnaround. So, it's going to be a topic. Like, I would put my money on, you're going to hear it in every other video, practice, vlog, whatever people are doing, they're going to be talking about it. So we're telling you now, it's going to be a complaint.
Yeah.
I think on the men's side, it may be valid, because they haven't seen Sprinkle Valley. So we're playing 2 courses, Sprinkle Valley, Harvey Pinnock.
Yep.
Some changes to Harvey Pinnock, which I haven't seen yet.
I haven't either, but I've heard is tough. For MPO side, like lengthening, making them more difficult. I think we talked maybe some shortening or some better adjustments for FPO. We'll see tomorrow when we play. Yeah, we're going to do a practice round tomorrow. But Sprinkle, we at least saw it for U.S. Women's. Now, it had some work to do during U.S. Women's. The course has definitely been beat in some during, since then, which I think will help a ton. I know some of that crew out there, and they've done a lot of work, but MPO has never seen Sprinkle Valley. No, unless they walked it. Like, with Mason Ford walked it with Alexis and Val last year. Yeah, that's a good point. And he was like frothing at the mouth. He's like, I can't wait to play this. So I'm interested to see what he says. And then, boom, they get it with longer new T-pads. Yeah, because I've heard there's some changes to the Sprinkle Valley course in anticipation for the MPO field and increasing the difficulty for them. Yep. So, I don't know. I understand it, but a 3-day turnaround with 2 courses that a lot of the people have not seen is tough. It is. Especially when then you're going to put a cut in the event. Mm-hmm. So, first event with a cut. Yep. Do you like it? Do you wish there wasn't a cut? What do you think? I think it's tough. I would have liked a week in between, right? It's the plus, so it's worth more Disc Golf Pro Tour, points for the tour standings. Like I said, it's a quick turnaround. My Mondays, I'm always gassed. It's like, I'm playing disc golf every day, but for that competition 3 days in a row, today I just, my body, I have no rotational control. I feel like I'm arming everything. Tomorrow I'll wake up and be like, I know how to play disc golf and throw again. But that only leaves me with 2, confident practice days. Yeah. And I think that's just the way the tour was with starting in Florida, then to Texas. They couldn't put an off week, Waco, another off week. Yeah, logistically, it makes sense. Yeah. But I think it's great. With a plus in a 4-day, I think the cut is, supposed to happen. It's mandatory. I don't know how I feel about it, because all the other 3 days we've played with the whole field. Why can't the whole field play round 4? Sure. Because there's always a handful of people that can shift up or shift down. Sure, yeah. And so if you cut them, they're done. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind a cut. I think as the tour grows and and the field grows as well, I think that there'll always be those people that are kind of on the bubble, and that might be just a casualty of it, or I'm trying to think of the word of the unintended side effect of it. But side effect, there you go. But I think as the field grows and the tour gets bigger, right? If it were me and I'm towards the bottom, which let's hope that doesn't happen a lot, but if I were at that time, if I'm near the bottom and I don't really have any chance to do anything on Sunday, I kind of want to get out of Dodge and go to the next one. And see, I agree. Yeah. That perspective. Yeah. And, but again, that isn't really how it's set up right now, right? No. You're not gonna, most people that don't make the cut are not leaving Saturday night to head to Nashville 2 weeks early to practice for Music City. No. That's probably not happening. So I don't hate a cut. I think it encourages people to get better. And I think it adds that element of Saturday is moving day. It gives something to storytelling and motivation and maybe drive you to. What do you remember, if anything, about Paul Macbeth playing, I believe it was DDO a couple years ago? Okay. He didn't make the cut. And that was a huge storyline. Exactly. Yeah, so I agree. I think it can create stories, and whether the players like that or not, nobody wants you airing out that you missed a cut for the first time in years. Yeah, or, Paul Macbeth. But I think it can add to the storyline. I think it just kind of adds to the entertainment value, maybe. Yeah. But I agree with you, because a lot of the players are really dependent on cashing, then missing that opportunity for that last push can
really be hurtful to some of the
I used to play Ultimate Frisbee, and so with our tournaments, you play like 4 games, and that's like running and throwing and being in the sun and wind and hot. 4 games on Saturday, 4 or even 5 games on Sunday, and so like there's no cut, but like if you're in 6th place, you're not gonna like win. You just go and you talk and you're like, hey, you get 6th place, we'll take 7th place, and we're gonna go home. Sure. So there is that mindset of like, yeah, I can't do much, so let's move forward. So like there's give and take on that.
Yeah,
that
and
idea.
I think too, on the last thing I'll say on this is, we've seen sometimes people that aren't in contention for cash or anything on the last day DNF.
Yeah.
Which I think is a worse look than a cut.
It is.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I don't hate it on a 4-day event, but I understand the argument that, let me play the last day and make a last push. So.
Here is this is controversy or a hot take. Maybe it's not a hot take, it's just a question of like, okay, so
hot take alley.
4-day event, FPO is cutting to 50%, so say we got 60 of us, 30 will get to play.
Okay.
If there's ties, so let's just say 30 make it, and I'm in 30th place, and I'm like, well, I'm in 30th place by like 12 strokes, I'm gonna DNF. I still cash.
Oof.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't either.
I think to earn the cash, you've got to finish the event.
Right.
If you do not finish, how can you get paid and you didn't finish? It's top 30 of the event.
Right.
Top 30 after first 3.
So if 30th place me, I drop, I shouldn't get my money. Where should that go to 31st who got cut and didn't get to play?
Yeah.
Or does it just like divide that number by 29 and add a couple bucks to the 29 top people?
Yeah, I don't think you give it to 31st. I mean, this is
Agreed.
me just shooting from the hip here.
Yeah.
I don't think you give it to 31st place.
Yeah.
Like, again,
They didn't play all 4.
Right or wrong, you didn't make the cut.
Yep.
You don't get paid. That, the rules going in,
right?
So, do you give it to the top 29? Yeah, I think that's kind of fair.
Yeah,
that's the most fair. Yeah, you just split it amongst the top players, but man, let's hope nobody does that. That would be.
It's happened a few times, but not because of like, oh, I don't want to play. It's like,
sure,
you hurt your knee, or you had a family.
Well, then I guess it
issue.
gets into that. Is it situational?
Yes, right.
Yeah, but then there's a lot of ambiguity and gray area.
The PDGA rules aren't necessarily like situational. It's like, oh,
right.
this is the So
yeah, interesting. Ooh, I like it. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. So that's our Waco recap, kind of our preview of the Open at Austin, the first CGPT Plus event. Let us know if you like this. We don't have a name for this. No. We don't even know if we're going to do it again next week. We just had the idea and wanted to sit down and give our thoughts. I talk entirely too much for one Instagram caption.
And I probably stared at you this whole video. Because I'm just interested in what you're talking about. So like this we're 2 chicks, 2 chairs.
Yeah. Camera's not even there. Yeah. Exactly.
Whatever.
All right, so let us know what you think, and we may or may not see you next week, depending on if you like it. So, deuces.
Thanks.
See ya.
Peace.